The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced?
Stop right there! All right.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio. Mr. Bumblefoot?
Seriously, Dave? Really? Aren't you a little old for a tinfoil hat?
Hello! Toby! Bye-bye! Nephew! Bye-bye!
Yeah, please take your seat about there. We're with you. It's time for pickup. Start. 2, 1, boost to ignition, and lift off.
And now, filling in for Dave Scott, here's James Tyson.
Hey, for tuning in to Spaced Out Radio, it is I, James Tyson, in for Dave Scott, who's in Boston, eating beans and doing whatever else he's doing out there. I'm pretty sure he's waiting tables at a Paracon. But it is E. It is E, and it is me, in for Dave tonight and tomorrow and on Monday. Broadcasting to you from my little log cabin on the 13th floor of the Spaced Out Radio Network from those paranormal portals of the lower left Canadian coast. It's Cascadia. It is the Pacific North drizzly west here on the wet coast. Let's take some time to welcome everyone listening on WQEE 99, Rock the Key in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead, on Spreaker on the United Public Radio Network, Renegade Talk Radio, the High Plains Radio Network, and at spacedoutradio.com. You can follow me on Spaced Out Weekend on Twitter. Give our Facebook page a like. It's Spaced Out Radio Show. Why don't you bounce back and follow me on James Tyson, SOR, on Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show, which is also on TuneIn, iTunes, and we are sliding your way on Radio Guide FM, TalkStream Radio, live, and on Stitcher. Welcome to those listening at spacedoutradio.com, and if you go to patreon.com, we have some cool stuff and some offers just for you, our listeners, as well. Make sure you check those out. And if you have had that weird bump in the night experience, or you've had an issue with what you think was a UFO or a Bigfoot or any kind of cryptid, go to spacedoutradio.com and fill out the SOR Sightlines report. Our researcher, Mike Schmidt, is ready to find out what is going on with you, actually for you, and he'll use a number of contacts throughout the world to drill down into that. One of those contacts could even be our own Skeeter Wellhouse, who does remote viewing, which is actually quite cool. I'm quite impressed with her remote viewing. Tonight, we have a very special guest, Yvonne Sneeden. She is the executive co-producer of a group called Back from the Light, and this was a documentary that they put together. Now, imagine a world in which we could have a glimpse of tomorrow's destination after this earthly life, and then come back to this life with the knowledge that the existence of a new reality somewhere else is the familiar earth we live in. The world is changing and opening them up to the reality of near-death experiences and the possibility that life does not stop at the end of our physical existence here on Earth. And that is actually what we're going to discuss tonight. Now, Yvonne has actually had two kind of back-to-back near-death experiences back in 2008. And since then, not only did she come back with a couple of gifts, which we have heard about when people have had a near-death experience, but she's taken it a step further and actually researched into what she has seen, come together with a number of other near-death experiencers, near-death experiencers, and have come back with a vengeance on finding out exactly what happened and getting the stories from around the world on what happened to other people in their experiences. So their documentary, Back from the Light, is out now and is an incredible snapshot, really, of those thousands of people who have been through this. Hello, Yvonne, and welcome to Spaced Out Radio. I almost said weekend. Sorry.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me on your show. It's an honor.
Oh, it's an honor for us. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You are from France, so I only speak Quebecois French, so I wouldn't be able to understand. Yeah, we don't say we say ouais. You come from France. Is France where you had your near-death experience?
Actually, no. I had my near-death experience in the U.S. I grew up in Belgium and France, and lived in both countries, both French-speaking countries, and I moved to the U.S. about 14 years ago. And I had my near-death experience actually in the U.S. after a series of emotional crisis and readjustment in a new country, raising my daughter. There were so much stress that I ended up having a what you call arrhythmia. It's actually it was getting worse and worse, and I had to go and I went to see a cardiologist who confirmed that it was arrhythmia actually, and gave me some medications to whenever I would have a crisis, and those medications were a bit strong for my composition, my physiology, and that's what created, together with the emotional crisis, created a near-death experience. So.
Oh wow, that would be that with the emotional crisis. Your emotional crisis added to the mix of medication that kind of doesn't help your crisis at all.
And actually, I'm an active member of IANDS, which stands for International Association of Near-Death Studies. I'm the lead here in the city of the group, and we have studied in depth the near-death experience. And actually, you can have a near-death experience either when your body is beyond broken actually and can't recuperate. So that's when you get the near-death experience, whether with an accident, a heart attack, a disease, a fever, all kind of situations. But they have confirmed as well that somebody who has an emotional crisis that is actually at the peak of what it can the mental can bear, you can also go through a near-death experience actually. So that has been officially studied and confirmed. Some people have that. I had both combined, and it created a near-death experience, which at the time I wasn't very happy to be sick. But it created a most wonderful, transformation in my life, and experiencing so many wonderful things. You come back with a different reality, actually you come back with two realities, the one that you have experienced on the other side, and the one here on Earth. So you just juggle with those two realities for the rest of your life.
Well, in your research, did you find that there were the people who that went through a trauma that the layman would say, "Oh yeah, you died.
Yes.
Your heart shut down for X amount of minutes, or you had a major heart attack, and we can't understand why you're back alive." So you interviewed those people, and you also would have talked to the people who had that, really near death. There was no clinical death, but it was really darn close to being dead.
Yes. Actually, generally, people that have a near-death experience, they are clinically dead, whether they are in a hospital, or it happens to them when they had fever at home or when they fell. And if you want, they don't have the medical confirmation because they were not surrounded at the time they had the experience with a whole group of physicians that can say, "Oh, your heart stopped," or they can confirm that, but they are extremely sure that they had a stop of life here on Earth. And then we have what you call near-death-like experience, and those people are maybe the ones that just had an emotional death, or they didn't go through a physical trauma, but actually they did have the exact same experience, and this is and they come back with the exact same after effects, if I may say. It's wonderful because and I'll come back later with the experience whenever you want. I can share anytime you want.
We'll get there, all right, young lady. So just
everything.
it's the one. I guess if anyone had to go through one, you'd probably want to go to the that near death one, or the one that you just kind of through stress and fever, you end up doing the let's call it the traveling to the other side. And I guess years ago that would have been a hard one to prove. When someone came out of it, you had a bad fever, you thought you saw God, you thought you went somewhere else, and they would have been determined, okay, you had a bad fever, hallucinations come with that.
That's right. You're exactly right. They would. And the beauty of today is that there's been a lot of studies done, scientific studies, medical studies, and there is a psychiatrist. His name is Bruce Graves, and he's very well known in the near-death organizations and community. And he has put together what you call the Graves scale. So he actually has put together a series of questions that he asked to somebody who had a near-death experience, and we can determine if the person did have a near-death experience or not, was dead and come back. When I talk about near-death experience, generally I mean somebody who has crossed over, who had an afterlife experience, somebody who really, the body died, actually, when I talk about the near-death experience. So he has actually had that, questionnaires, and he can determine, yes, the person, you had to have a series of answers that are actually similar, and that's how they detect. For example, if you have 20 questions, you need to have 15 questions that are actually going to be the answer that they are expecting. And so they have done some kind of studies nowadays with experiencers or people that have a near-death-like experience, and actually they can confirm that even though it was not completely dead, but they have the same symptom. They have had an afterlife experience anyway. They went out of their body.
So there is I guess there definitely had to be a way to cut out the hallucinations, the people who had hallucinations from the people who actually did, quote unquote, cross over. And it's called the Graydon scale, or the Graydon?
The Grayson.
Grayson.
Greyson, Grayson. It's actually, his name is Bruce Grayson, and the scale is after his name, Bruce Grayson, and he's probably the most well-known psychiatrist in the near-death community. He has been studying the phenomena for 30 years. He was with Raymond Moody as well. So I don't know if you know Raymond Moody. He has actually written a book, Life After Life.
Life After Life. I have heard of the book, and I'm trying to figure out whether or not he's been on the show, or we quoted it by somebody. But yeah, Life After Life is is familiar. When did you kind of, in 2008, you come out of your experience, and were you absolutely stumped on what had gone on? Therefore, you thought, okay, I really have to find other people like this, or I have to find more information on the experience I had? Yes,
actually, as far from me, prior to my near-death experience, I was a very, very spiritual person, but more in the Christian community. So I had studied enough, somehow I knew there was an afterlife. When I came out of my near-death experience, I have expanded my understanding of things. And so, you see, my first experience, I knew where I was going. I had a sense that I was going back home. Once I was out of my body, everything seemed so normal, and two beings of light. But my first near-death experience was 3 weeks prior to what I call my actually big one. If we can compare, I mean, both of them are outstanding. You can never change it. It just sticks with you for the rest of your life, and you learn so much. But the first one was, to me, more like an introduction to what I was going to experience later. The first one was I had two beings of light that came. Those medications that I was taking have two side effects that have been confirmed by an anesthesiologist here in Duke Hospital, and they had two side effects. Actually, the first one is a sleep apnea, and the other one is a heart stop. And I had those two happen to me within the month. The first one, because I was so afraid of having a crisis again of arrhythmia, because my heart would be racing as soon as I would lay, my heart would be racing so fast. And so sometimes when I was afraid that I would have a crisis, I would just take a medication before the attack would happen, which wasn't very, looking back, it wasn't very smart, because it would slow my heartbeat when I didn't have a crisis. So my heart was normal, so that would slow the heartbeat. So of course my heart would stop, So that's what happened for the first time. And I took those medications, and I lay on my bed, and as soon as I lay, I am out of my body, and I see myself laying on the bed, and at the end of my bed, I see two beings of light standing there and telling me, Yvonne, it's time to go. We are going home. We are leaving Earth. You're leaving Earth, and we are going home. So imagine, I am in a radio where everybody is very familiar, so that makes things easier. But when I went with them, so I was right in the middle of them, and I said, okay, let's go. Once you're out of your body, and I'm sure many people can confirm that on this show, but once you're out of your body, everything seems completely normal. You're not thinking, oh my gosh, I'm out of my body, what's happening? You just cross into that new reality, which is your real reality. You are waking up to the complete self, and everything seems very normal. So those two beings asked me to go with them, and I said, yes, I'm coming with you. And I felt a tremendous, tremendous power and strength coming from those beings. They were like messengers, or you could say more like afterlife warriors or of some sort. They were extremely powerful, and I felt that nothing could ever happen to me as we were going to cross dimension, because they were with me. So as we were together like that, we just crossed the entire universe in 1 second. So imagine you experience things like that outside your body, and you come back. It's really you have to readjust to this reality when you have been with beings that just are by your side, strong, powerful, interstellar, I could say. And suddenly you're just crossing the entire universe. And we were in some sort of container of light. I don't know how to describe that. And just crossed the entire universe. And we arrived at a place that looked like another world, but it looked like a planet or something. It was just amazing. And as we arrived in there, we went through some structures, and those structures were completely illuminated. And when we entered inside those structures, there were about 20 to 25 beings of light, people that were extremely excited to see me coming back home. They were saying, she's back, she's here, she's back, she's here. And when I saw them, I felt like a family reunion. I felt home. I felt that I was with my own tribe, my own clan, my people, that was really home. That earth was not really home, but I was with my own family, and they were full of love and acceptance, and I felt a sense of belonging. They made me feel, you belong with us. We are family. We love you. And it was just like a celebration of my coming back.
Wow. So you, these light friends of yours, these associates, they take you to some buildings that are structures that are actually glowing, like they're okay. Would they? And I'm going to get you to help me build this mental picture in my head. Are these like a building that we would know, multi-story buildings, or what kind of structures were they?
See, as soon as we arrived there, I was instantly inside. It's difficult to explain, and that's why I call it structure, because as soon as we arrived, I was instantly inside, almost didn't see the outside. I see the planet, and I'm immediately inside, and inside, everything is actually glowing. All the structures, the walls, the floor is glowing from the inside out. I couldn't focus on the external, because it was, as I said, it was all happening literally in 1 second. From here to inside that. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So, as you're approaching this, what you see is actually a planet you're heading towards to?
Yes, that's what it is. And I hope, I'm on the right show here to that people wouldn't be. I'm not used to speak in I think it's my third time. I spoke at Coast to Coast, and that's the third time. So I have to get familiar that I'm with a familiar audience here. But because usually I always try to be more not as detailed, because I'm not sure how people react. But here I feel like I have total peace about
with my crew, if you're not detailed, they'll be asking all sorts of questions, and we'll be off on another topic, and they'll ask a question to do with the first 5 minutes. So it's it's better to be as detailed as as possible.
Okay, well, thank you for this for this invitation. I feel much better actually. It was like a planet. Imagine that it was like it was almost like the moon type of situation. If you want a visual, everything around was like the universe without stars. And then instantly we were I knew I was crossing the universe, and then we arrived at a planet, and then the next thing, I'm inside those structures. So I haven't seen the outside, but inside they had furniture, like more than like you would imagine, but everything was made of light. In a sense, because everything was lit up, the floor, the walls, the beings of light were lit up as well. It's like, for a visual, it's like seeing human beings, but instead of having, it's like seeing human beings, but instead of having inside the body muscles and veins and bones, it's pure light. You see?
But the same
that's why
shape?
they were glowing.
Okay.
The same shape.
All right.
Head, arms, everything was the same, but everything, the inside was made of light.
What color?
So there was no bones. Light, you know, like a neon?
Neon?
Yes. Well, so imagine a neon. That's how everything looked like. Inside the wall, and the people as well, they're beautiful. I mean, you can the features are like humans, like you and I, but they are beings of light. I guess I come from that world,
Okay.
because that's where I was going back, and these beings are human form, but made of light in the inside, and everything is positive about them. There is no evil, no darkness. It's pure light, if I can say. It's like a kingdom of light. It's like a place of light. So everything. So here I am. They are surrounding me. I'm home, and we're sitting in a type of seat, like a sofa type. But the sofa is glowing to the tables. Everything has life. Everything is made of that light, actually, and it's reflecting outside light. And we are gathered together, and you have to know that those beings, that world where I went, they're manifesting the highest level of everything positive. So kindness, consideration, respect, attention, and that's how I felt. I felt absolutely. People were very attentive to me and happy to see me. And we were catching up. It's almost like we were catching up. And while I was there, I was thinking, what did just happen? What was that horrible nightmare on Earth? That's how I felt. I said, I'm so glad to be home. What was that nightmare? I'm just so glad to be home here. And then at some point of that moment of celebration, there's a woman who came out of the crowd, and then she took my head with her hands, and she said to me, Yvonne, your experience on planet Earth is a very difficult one. So you see, James, she knew that made me realize that my life on planet Earth was an experience. But my real life was over there. You see what I mean?
Yes.
So, because she was saying your experience on planet Earth is a difficult one. Like I was on a travel on Earth and back. So that was really, and then she said, but you have to go back quickly before you will not be able to reintegrate your body. So you have to go back now. Otherwise, you won't be able to reintegrate your body, and it almost like I cannot finish my mission on Earth. And when she said that, those two beings were back, the one that actually drove me there. So they were back, and she said that, just like, she was very encouraging and almost saying, don't worry, you'll be back. That's a journey there, but you'll be back. And when she said that, she didn't say that, but that's what she meant. The beings were back, and I went back in between both of them, and the same thing happened within within 1 second. We crossed that same universe or dimension, and we were back. I was back, and I opened my eyes and I said, "Wow, what just happened?" But I was extremely happy and not fearful, because it was an amazing experience. Some people that have near-death experience don't have a positive one. So they have a negative. There are also negative near-death experience. So I was extremely happy to have experienced that, and that was 2 or 3 weeks before the one I call the big ones, the big one actually.
So I want to get. We'll touch on those positive and those negative ones a bit later, but I'd like to get to know what happened in the week or two after this first travel event you had. What was going through your mind, and how did you kind of balance that off with your the Christianity and your religion? How did they fit together?
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Just to give you a small background. Actually, when I was in Europe, I was extensively in the Christian environment, very active in church. But it was a church that we call charismatic. So they, from all the churches, they are the ones that are already open to supernatural, to miracles and gifts. So it was already a church that believed in that angel or beings like that exist. So this actually, and I have seen a lot of supernatural miracles. That's how the vocabulary is. Miracles during those days in Europe. I was myself during the weekends, because my first job when I was in Europe, I was in the diplomatic field, and then later on I worked for the European Union. So that was my professional background. But my passion was to work in the supernatural within the church. And I was a speaker. I would go and speak in different churches, and then also already had supernatural gifts. My gift was and is mainly healing of ailment, healing of emotional distress, but also physical healing. So that's what I saw a lot back then already. So I was already in somehow the supernatural, and but what happened so when I moved to the U.S., I was still in the same environment, what we call charismatic churches, which charisma means gifts, which actually welcome all the supernatural gifts like healing. They call it prophecy, and you call it psychic, but it's the same thing. Or word of knowledge for the Christian, but here you call it psychic because they have gifts about knowing things about people in the future. So actually, when I was very involved in the church here as well, and then this happened, my first experience, and when I came back. I was excited because I had seen those two beings of light that I call angels. So for me, it was an excitement. I had a background. It's not like I was leading a life with no spiritual background at all, and suddenly this happened to me. And then when I come back, I have to make a sense of it all, because I had some kind of background already of that there was a spiritual world that wasn't seen here, but that exists. So it's more when I had my second experience that things started to change for me in a few things in the church that I wasn't very agreeing with, and other things I understood differently. And especially on the level of love, when you go to those worlds that I went to, there's such a high vibration and level of love that is non-existent on earth. that when you come back, even when you go to some churches, and you hear some of the teaching, and I'm not going to condemn any group or form, because after my NDE, I learned not to judge anyone, and there is good everywhere. I just didn't fit with some of the teaching anymore, which were the teaching of condemnation and guilt trip feeling, and that didn't fit well with me anymore, because I understood that judgment is actually a form of it's actually still a form of that exists on this level of life, but that doesn't exist in that other dimension of life, if I can say so. I learned a lot, but more after my second NDE, because this was brief, and what changed to me right after this one is that I started to look at life after life. I went on Google and said, what is life after life? I mean, this one was obviously a very new experience that I have never experienced, and I want to know more. So I started to try to look for questions, but the other one came very quickly. I forgot to tell you that before this all happened, about 2 or 3 weeks before the first travel happened, I knew that I was going to die. And I haven't met many people that had a near-death experience who knew that they were going to die. I've met a couple of them, and I was so excited. So I knew 2 or 3 weeks before, I knew I was going to die. And I felt an extreme peace with it, which doesn't make any sense because I have a daughter, and I was a single mother, and I had a daughter to raise. So it didn't make sense that I was at peace to die and leave my daughter behind. But somehow I had received already that peace for me to be able to experience that I was going to experience. I don't know if it's clear, if I'm making myself clear actually, but the information was given to me, you're going to die, and that's okay. And I even called my sister back home. She lives in Belgium, in Europe, and I called her and I said, I know I'm going to die. I'm calling you because I know I will be dying soon, but don't worry. I am at peace. I feel fine. Everything will be okay. And she reminded me that later on, which I had forgotten, and she reminded me that I had told her that actually, and then I said, oh yeah, I remember. I had bought all kind of outfit and pajamas and day outfit in case I was dying. I was preparing myself for the people that would find me dead at some, because I didn't know when I was going to die. So I had, I just bought all kind of beautiful clothes so that the person that would find me, I would be decent. I mean, it's so funny when you know you're going to die, what things you're thinking that you would never think otherwise.
When going back to the knowledge that you're going to die, how is that information passed on to you?
It's a knowing. It's a absolute 150% knowing that that's going to happen. It came as a knowing. Okay. And yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying the knowing. It was just one of those types of information that downloaded information that you just can't ignore. It kind of fills you completely. Something like that? Absolutely.
Okay. Absolutely. It's actually a, you know that you know that you know that you know that you know. It's, and when I was during my second NDE, I understood that because that's how we were communicating over there with knowings. It's even beyond telepathy, because telepathy, it's you talking to me and me in my mind, and I'm getting the information in my mind. It's even faster than that, the communication on the other side. It's knowing to knowing. We know immediately what the other person... It's knowing to knowing. It's a faster concept even than the telepathy. And that's exactly that I just knew without any doubt that I was going to die.
Wow.
I met 2 other people that had a near-death experience that also knew, and I was really happy when I met them because I said, well, yes, that's exactly. So they knew, they understood the feeling. It's a complete knowing.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. It's just a overwhelming knowledge. It's like you've known it all your life. You can't really tell where it's come from. You just know, and there's no pinpointing how it was downloaded into you.
It's very well said, James, when you said it's as if you have known it all your life. That's exactly it. Exactly it.
I'm going to bounce you back a bit. You were saying you lived in Belgium and you lived in France.
Yes.
Were you in Belgium in the end of November in 1989 to April of... 1989 to 1990?
Yes.
Okay. Which part of Belgium were you in?
Brussels.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any memory, because you're very, very young, of the large UFO sightings that went on from November 89 to April 1990 in Belgium? And it was mostly in just to the southeast of Brussels.
Oh, James, not at all. I wish I had, because back then I wasn't into all that, so into the UFO and even believing in it. So I think I was not. I never heard about it, and I wasn't watching a lot of TV back then because as I was in that very Christian spiritual journey, I remember I wasn't watching TV at all. Okay. So I kind of disconnect myself from the news, and back then it was that period of time. So unfortunately, but I think I'm going to go and Google it after this interview.
If you would, it was witnessed by over 13,000 people.
Oh wow!
Many of them gave written statements to the police. It was picked up on these, and this again happens over a 4 or 5 months, almost 6 month period. 5 months anyway. And they were all over Belgium into the border area by, I think it's called Liège, by the Netherlands.
Yes.
So they're all over
on the German border.
Yeah, they're all over the place. The Belgian Air Force scrambled fighters. Even radar in Great Britain were picking them up. So it was a long time.
And how do we know what type of UFO it was? Do we have
the big flat triangular shape with lights underneath?
Okay.
Giant ones that didn't make any noise and moved slowly across the landscape.
Okay.
So,
wow.
Just curious if you bumped your head on one of those when you were a kid. And
I wish I had. Now that I'm thinking, but no, I'm very curious to go and read that after this interview, actually, because now, of course, after my NDE, all those things open up, and you want to know, you want to understand, and since then I've read a lot and about ufology and all that field as well. And I had a coworker, actually, currently a coworker who saw a spaceship in his. He lives in the countryside, and he explained how the whole experience. So that was neat, actually.
How many? So, about what year did you go into the more of the spiritualist church from the old established type of church?
Christian church. This was in 1985. Okay. I think around that. I shouldn't look at that actually because I haven't. But it's been about. I was in the church. I was in the church for about 15 years actually, and it all happened on my own, actually. I was searching for an understanding of life and where we were going, and that led me to the church at that time, and that was what was corresponding to my quest. And I want to say, because oftentimes we see the Christian church like that, judgmental, narrow-minded. There are also good people there and amazing people, like everywhere else, and there are bad people in the church as well. It's all about how sincere and honest you are with what you are experiencing and what you're believing. If you're going to be genuine and honest about it, that your journey will be great, and then you'll meet people that are trying to be honest in their quest, and then you will have in all those organized groups, whether it's Christian and whether it's any kind of religion, I feel like you always have the same map. You have within those groups the ones that are genuinely seeking and trying to do to follow what they are believing in, and then you have those that are in more for the power and the manipulation and trying and you always have those two people, and so that's why I always am very cautious about saying one group of spirituality is bad and the other one is good. So it's all about who you are inside.
Yeah,
and that's what matters.
I was a Mountie, a policeman in Canada here in a very small town. And I asked one of the ladies at work, is there any single girls around here? Because it was that small of a town. And she said, well, you'll have to come to church. There's lots of girls there. And I thought, oh, so that's where you meet girls. That's why you go to church, to meet girls. But no, the reason I asked you about
that's funny.
what year you actually kind of switched to the more spiritual side, I was trying to draw out if it was this UFO blitz in Belgium ended in April of 1990. I was curious if you changed churches in May of 1990. Then I could kind of say, oh, well, maybe you got a download or something. And
that would have made sense, actually.
Yeah, but that's why I brought it up. Anyway. So let's get back to, we've got about 5 minutes left here before our first break at the top of the hours. So I want to just kind of finish up. You had your first event, and it was a lovely event, I guess. And you got back and you were all giggles and smiles. Were you still quite ill, though?
I still had the arrhythmia, absolutely. So I kept taking my medication, and I did not realize that I had that the fact that I was gone was due to the medication. I didn't put the two together. This was put to me together with when I asked the anesthesiologist, and I explained to the anesthesiologist what happened to me when the journey I had with the two beings, and she said to me, you had sleep apnea. You stopped breathing, because anesthesiologists, of course, they know what kind of medication stop the heart and stop the breathing, because they are the one during surgery that actually know which medication to stop the heart when they do some very critical surgery on a body. So they are the expert of all those medications. And she said, I can guarantee you 100% that you had sleep apnea. You stop breathing probably more than 3 minutes. When you stop breathing more than 4 minutes, your heart stops and you die. And she said, you're very, very fortunate that you came back. She said, I've seen patients not coming back. Wow. So that's what happened there with my first NDE.
Did you tell anybody about it?
I told my sister because I was so excited about it. I told my sister and my best friend. They all live in Belgium, so I did tell them about it, and but I didn't know yet that it was. A lot of people don't have the terminology I had a near-death experience. They say, I don't know what happened to me. I left this earth. I was no longer here. I left. I was gone. I went to that place, and I explained that and my sister was wondering, she thought, even after my second ND, especially after my second ND, she thought I had lost it. With those two experiences, she thought I had completely lost it, that I was getting insane. And then especially after I told her about meeting other people and everything else that was happening, and then me interested in the UFOs, everything that came after, my sister really thought Yvonne is becoming really crazy, until 3 years ago she had a near-death experience, and it changed her concept, and she finally understood where I came from. And now it's amazing, because we can, both of us can exchange thoughts about what happened to her, what happened to me on the other side, where she went, where I went, and then we just talk about that. And she has lots of gifts, or psychic gifts, like you say, or she already had them before. So, so I talked to her about it.
Okay. All right. We're going to be back with more from Yvonne. And we really want to dig into some of that research you've been up to and your documentary. And I'm really interested to find out about those who had the negative encounters with those on the other side. Because, we never get into those as much as we do with those positive ones. Anyway, everybody, 7-minute stretch. Let's go.
Coming September 29th to October 1st, the first annual Spaced Out Radio Caribou Paracon. Hi, this is Dave Scott. The event will be held at the Spruce Hills Spa and Resort in 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Come join us for an amazing weekend of speakers talking all things paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Sasquatch, intuitiveness. Listen to great speakers like Miriam Delicato, Samantha Mowat, and the crypto guru, Ronald Murphy. Get your VIP passes by going to spacedoutradio.com and clicking on the Paracon banner. Come to BC, where the paranormal is waiting for you.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spacedoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Hey, this is Canadian paranormal investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the Sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report and let's find out the answers together.
Visit purpleplates.com today for For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET Experiencer, Spirit Medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest. From Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back, everybody, to Spaced Out Radio. It's James Tyson in for Dave Scott, who is gone for the week to Boston to speak at a Paracon down in Boston. If you go over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, just pay attention. The first Friday of every month is our Keith Andrews, and he is our resident ET expert. He brings with him the ET experience, and he has 50 years of contact, which is pretty good because he's only 43. But it's our Keith Andrews on the first Friday of every month. And of course, the last Friday of every month is that crazy roundtable where Dave makes me answer questions that I have no idea what he's talking about half the time, but that's the last Friday of every month. And we always have to thank our guitar god, Ron Bumblefoot Thal. He is the man behind the music of Spaced Out Radio, and we really appreciate him allowing us to be the exclusive users of his music. You know what I mean. He's allowing us to use his music. He doesn't allow anybody else to use it except us. It is ours. In fact, it's not even his anymore. No. Go see Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Follow him on Twitter. Follow him on Facebook. He is a marvelous human being, and he's giving back to the community all the time and setting up all sorts of schools around the world for those gifted children in music and giving them the opportunity to actually advance themselves and give themselves a bit of a forum to learn and just go on in their dream. And that's Ron Bumblefoot Thal. He is the man behind our music here at Spaced Out Radio. We're going to be back with, or we're coming back with Yvonne right now. Yvonne has had those interesting near-death experiences. Well, in fact, I think it's hard, Yvonne, to even call them near-death because you actually die. Like, clinically, you die. So it's more you've had a death experience.
Yes, that's how we should call it, actually. You're right. I've always thought that near-death experience to explain an afterlife experience wasn't maybe the best word.
Yeah, that's kind of that close call death experience. But and your second one, now here's you after telling your sister and all your friends that you're crazy. I mean, you've had a near-death experience. What was the...
Well,
we won't tease your sister anymore.
That's maybe what they have thought of me, for sure.
Oh, no Christmas card for Yvonne this year. Your second one, how long after the first one was that?
It was about 3 weeks later. Of course, I haven't put it in a calendar because, you have experiences and then suddenly later on you realize, oh, but wait a minute, that happened to me. So I know that it was within the same month, probably about 2 or 3 weeks later. I had my second one at home as well. So I'm still taking those medications, and one day I'm actually laying on my sofa, reading the Bible, and I'm reading, and suddenly I feel simultaneously I feel my body shutting down, and at the same time I'm slipping out of my body. And at the same time, I'm translated instantly into an immense, bright light. So I went from being here one moment, and the second moment, I am in that bright light. And as I was explaining, actually, not everybody goes through a tunnel when you have a near-death experience. I think it's only 15 or 20% of people that remember going through a tunnel. Maybe they went, but they don't remember. But anyway, we don't remember. Only 15% to 20% report having been through a tunnel. The media and the television and the movies, they have actually focused on that tunnel because it's visual and it's commercialized. But other people have different type of experience or portal to go to the other side. For me, it was instant. I slip out of my body. I am in that bright light. Everything around me is light, pure light. It's like you are, when you travel in a plane and you are inside the cloud. You look everywhere. You don't see anything but that cloud. Underneath, above, everything is just pure light. Well, but instead of the cloud, it was just light. You could look everywhere. It was just pure light. And the amazing part of it, yes, go ahead.
No, almost said wow.
And the amazing part of that was actually, James, that light in that light, I felt the utmost happiness, like 1,000 times more happy than the happiest time of day of your life. It was just the utmost perfect happiness that you could ever experience, and at the same time, the utmost peace, happiness, joy. It was like an effervescence. It was just an effervescence joy. I felt the pure joy and happiness, and everything was joy. Very vibrant, a vibrant joy. And there I was, nothing negative. Anything negative was non-existent. It was non-existent. Even so, it was just pure happiness. And as I'm bathing in that amazing feeling and joy, from a distance is coming towards me a being, and I see the outline, a translucent being coming towards me. And that being is not walking like we're walking on earth. He's actually hovering in the air, hovering towards me and whirling around me, like flying, hovering and flying around above me now. And that being, it's just like you imagine a flame of fire, but instead of fire, it's like, you see the movement of the fire in your fire, you see the spark when you have an open fire, for example, and you see the movement. That's how was that being. It was just hovering and moving like that in the air around me and above me, and then that being was just extremely full of love and looking at me like I was the most amazing thing I've ever seen, and was just looking at me like a mother look at a baby, just baby born, and that being engulfed me. And as soon as that being engulfed me, I was downloaded, just like, like I said earlier, the knowing. I was just downloaded. This is Jesus. This is Christ. And Jesus was just full of love and kindness and gentleness and purity and affection, that tenderness and affection. And actually, Jesus was not just a male energy. It was both female and male in one single unit. It's almost like you were in the presence of your ideal parent. Actually, I was just in the heart of home. I was with my ideal parent that knew me for everything I was. Every single pulse of my being and my existence was known by that being that was Christ, and it was all okay. I was just loved and cherished, and to the point that being Jesus was actually kissing my face like a mother kisses a baby, and engulfed me. I really felt home. I felt like that 4-year-old child who is actually sitting on his parent's lap, his ideal parent. I always say the ideal parents because I know that many of us have not had the ideal parents. So this is the perfect love of the parents, the healthy ones. And it's just a feeling of, a 4-year-old child sitting on the laps, on her or his parents' laps, and feeling that they are so safe because they are in their parents' lap. Nothing could ever happen to them, And that's exactly the feeling I had in Christ's embrace, in Jesus' embrace, and just felt home. And I felt I could tell anything, not that Jesus that is portrayed oftentimes in churches, like if you do anything bad, you're going to be punished. That condemnation feeling, I felt just embraced and just not judged and full of love. And once again, I know some amazing churches where love is spread. I don't want to judge anybody. I'm just explaining that it's for people that have a negative memory of Jesus or the church, or it's a trauma for them. I'm just explaining that it was pure love. Christ was pure, perfect, loving, giving, embracing, accepting love. That's all it was. And I was in that embrace. Yes.
One of the we have a couple of questions coming up, but I'm first because I'm hosting. You said you encountered what you believe was Jesus. How can you compare? How do you know it was Jesus and not a God or a God source energy? What did you actually see? Was it more a feeling?
Oh no, I saw and felt. See, when you're in heaven, I call that place heaven, or people would call it the light. So I call it heaven because many people can. When I say heaven, it brings a visual to people of of an experience. So when you're in that place, there's no doubt. Doubt is actually another stressful feeling, which is a negative feeling. And I said earlier, there's no doubt. When you're over there, all the informations are totally clear. You know that it's downloaded to you. There's absolutely no doubt or hesitation or questioning. Everything is very factual. That's what it is. And I knew it was Christ. That's how he announced. It's like if I meet you, James, if I meet you in heaven or in anywhere else, in Belgium or in France, I know you're James. I know I'm not meeting Dave or anybody else. Your spirit, your energy, I know it's you. You see what I mean? And it will be the same over there, but you have to know, and you'll see the rest of my experience. Christ is actually, to me, and what I have experienced several times, he's actually, when the Bible said that he's the Word of God, it's not the Word, the Bible, actually, that he's actually a portal, the portal of creation. That's how I understood it. A portal of creation, that because all his being, and not at that moment, but later on in my experience, his entire being pulsated creation.
Okay.
You see, but that comes later in my experience. So definitely it was Christ, and it was. Sometimes people think that maybe that when you see Christ or another religious entity, they're all the same, but we perceive it the way we want to perceive it. And I don't agree with that, because heaven doesn't trick us. If we feel that that's that being, it is that being, that's how, that's my logic.
Now, was this a separate place? So I can catch up to you here again. In your first instance, you went to a planet.
Yeah.
The second time, did you go to that same planet?
No, it was another place.
Well, let's take a big step back and just catch up the listener on what you and I talked off air about, because now that you understand, we have listeners that are actually kind of with you there. So if you want to explain exactly who took you in what on your first near-death experience.
Okay, you mean with the two angels?
Yeah.
The two beings of light. Okay. So do you want me to explain that story I explained to you offline?
Well, yeah. We'll just do that one, and then we'll jump up to the next one, going to heaven here, because. Okay. And for the listener, Yvonne, because she's only been talking out in public on radio, it's about her third time. She was a little concerned that you might think she was wacko, but face it, everybody listening to the show is as crazy as me, and therefore you're the smart one, Yvonne.
Okay, we're all smart, right?
Yeah.
Or wacko. So, okay, thank you. So there is an element that I didn't explain in my first one when the beings of light came to pick me up. Actually, behind them, when they told me, Yvonne, it's time to go, we're going home, it's time to go, behind them was a spaceship, which was actually open. It was a white spaceship, oval, an oval white, very sleek looking white spaceship, and the spaceship was open. The top was open, and when they say we are going, actually we went inside that spaceship. It's a spaceship made of. It's actually, I understood later on that it's made of light, and it's actually needed when you travel in a very long distance. So we went inside it together, and I was in the middle. So when we crossed the entire universe, we were in that spaceship of light, and they were both sitting next to me, and I was in the middle. And the odd thing is that one of them, actually, the one to my right, was moving a little in front of him, a little like. Not a wheel, but some kind of gear or something. He was moving that, and then suddenly we were gone. But it was me, and in 1 second we arrived there. And at the end of the experience, when they came back, we went back into that spaceship of light, and we were back on Earth. And I was explained by somebody who speaks a lot with beings of light, who has been speaking for 40 years with beings of light, and has received a lot of questions of the afterlife and what's happening. So when I was telling him my experience, and he told me that actually this spaceship that they use are a spaceship made of light that actually are used when you travel in a very far destination. And he explained to me that I probably come from a very, very far destination, and that's why it was used, and that's why I wasn't going through a tunnel, that actually the tunnel is a closer destination. That's what he explained to me that he received as an information. So he said that I was from the 5th dimension where the beings of light are. So that's the element that I didn't explain in the beginning.
Okay, very cool. And this second death, your second death experience, you actually went to where most people go. Now, I say most people because being a light being, and now I've interviewed a few people who are or experience light beings, and I've had a guest or a listener who not only we found out that his family of light beings still follow him around, that we found out through psychic readings what his path is supposed to be here on Earth, and he being this light being. So I'm guessing from your conversation or my conversation with you when you went to that planet and saw the other light beings, your light being family, you too are a light being, and unfortunately, or not unfortunately, but at this point you don't know what your tasking is, or it just hasn't been placed in front of you yet. So we'll see.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll see when you become Prime Minister of all of Africa or something, or the entire continent is mine. You got to pick a big continent. China. There you go. You can be the boss. You can be boss of China. One of the things I'm interested in, because a lot of people who talk about going to heaven, they on these near-death experiences, they come. They'll see what they describe as a God source, as a orb that comes to them and says, "Whoops, made a mistake. You got to go back." Or they'll have a Jesus source, just like you have. The Jesus entity comes to them, and everything is just telepathic. It's all thought. Did you see any, other than the angelic realm, the Jesus source, did you see any of your family or any, your grandmother or anybody like that, your favorite cat or dog, any other people that were incarnate during your life?
No, I did not. I didn't see my parents were passed away, but I had a very difficult relationship with my parents. I saw them only 3 times in my life, so they didn't come to welcome me. I think probably because I had spent 15 years in a Christian church and a lot of time meditation and praying, so it makes sense that Christ came to me. And I had seen Christ prior to my NDE in the past as well. So
don't skip over that. Where did you see him?
Well, when I was, as I told you, I was in Europe, in France, and in Belgium. I was very active in church and speaking in different churches and conferences. And back then, I was, I took a sabbatical. So I worked at the embassy for a few years in the diplomatic field. Then I took 3 years of interruption where I went to Bible college in the south of France, in the southeast of France. And after that, I was very involved in church. So I spent a lot of time praying and meditating, probably like 4 or 5 hours a day, sometimes 6 hours, sometimes a whole night. And I would do a lot of fasting and praying. So I would fast 2 weeks just with water and honey, and just pray. Spend that time just so all those times that I had were oftentimes to prepare myself when I would go and speak somewhere. I would spend time in praying and fasting. And so when I would go and speak, I would receive ahead of time, for example, what kind of people would be in the audience and what sickness they had or what problem they had that needed to be delivered from. And so the next day I would be speaking there, and I would see sitting there, for example, Jesus would tell me while I would pray, well, tomorrow when you'll go to church, there is a man who has a mustache. And back then, it wasn't fashionable to have a goatee or beard or anything. It wasn't that type of trend like we have today. Jesus said there will be a man with a mustache. He will sit at the left. It was a smaller audience of about 100 people. So he said he will be sitting on your left. He wants to commit suicide for something. So just help him not to do it. And I would be speaking that day, and I would look at the people, and indeed I would see that man to the left with his mustache, but he had a big smile, and I would think to myself, I'll never dare to tell him what Jesus told me. He looks very happy. But when I told him, tears came in his mind, and it was true. He wanted to commit suicide for some reason that he explained to me later on, and then I laid my hand on him, and the energy, the healing energy just delivered him. And I saw him 2 years later. He was very active in church and never thought of committing suicide and helping people that were going through hardship to just help them not to do it. So that's how I was used in the past. Or I would see a woman in the audience and I would tell her, you were in deep drugs and you were in the bottom of your life. And when you arrive at that bottom because you were such a drug addict, somebody talked to you about God and about Christ, and it turned your life around, and that's how you are here today. And that woman looked like a very, very posh, very high class woman. You would never have thought she had drugs or anything, and it was true. So she would tear. So that's the type of thing I was used. Even before my ND, that's how I was used, because I was spending a lot of time in meditation. I would go to places and just have message for people, and healing would occur. Some people with physical healing would be healed, like that young child that I saw in Scotland. I was invited to speak in a church in Scotland. And my best friend, who is a physician, she's an oncologist, she would travel with me because she couldn't believe what was happening. That child was actually crippled. I mean, he was walking, he couldn't walk properly because one of his legs wasn't working properly. And that child was about 9 years old, and his dream was to be able to play soccer. But he couldn't because of that leg, and here I was with my days of fasting and praying, and so I asked. I just took that child and I said, "Do you mind if I lay my hand?" And I asked God to help, and He said, "Yeah, no, I don't mind." So I just hold his legs, and this is the honest truth. And I still have people alive to testify that what I'm saying is really true. We all heard his leg cracking. We heard the cracking, the noise, the cracking of the bones being reconstructed. Yeah. And in front of us, that child stood up and ran around the church, and he was walking just like anybody else. There were tears in the room. So that was how I was used. So one night, to come back to how I saw Jesus, and that's one story among many. That's how I was used back then. And then, then unfortunately, my divorce came because my ex-husband and I were not getting along well, and yet I was speaking in churches, and as you know, divorce is not so much accepted in churches, and it goes. People are trying to keep couples together, which so didn't happen for us, and I felt so horrible because we were going to divorce, and yet I was just a minister, and it was hard, emotionally and mentally and I felt that I was failing God, and I said, and I was in my room in France, in the kitchen. And I still remember because they have stone in the kitchen, a lot of stones in the kitchen in France, and not wood or anything. And I was just there praying for hours until about 3 a.m. And that's when suddenly, because I just felt I was failing, and that, I was extremely sad. I thought my spiritual life was over. And suddenly around 3 a.m, to the right of my room, above, in the corner to the right of the ceiling, the room disappeared completely, and it was dark like the universe without stars. And I know I was suddenly I was in the spiritual level. I was no longer in my body at that time, because I was seeing that, and in that corner was a being. He was not facing me. His back was facing me. A huge being that was about 10 feet, probably 15 feet high, who was actually his back was facing me. The very wide, brilliant robe, and that being was turning very slowly, progressively to face me. In the background was a celestial music, a very soothing music without, on earth the music has a beat because we have the time concept. So there's that beat that's actually going with the time. But when I was watching that scene, it was a continuous music which was never ending. It was a very soothing, very beautiful celestial music in the background as that being was turning around and that robe was pure white light. And when that being was finally facing me, his face was pure light. I couldn't make his feature. It was just pure light. The face was pure light and the robe was brilliant. And but yet I could sense his eyes. That's very difficult to explain. And then I was thinking, who is that? And as I think that, probably my guardian angel, but I couldn't see anyone next to me, telepathically told me immediately, this is Jesus. And when he said that, Jesus looked at me with so much, the same thing as when I died, when I was on the other side, that love, but also a lot of pure innocence. Like, there is no, it's like he's not programmed for evil. There's no program in his computer for evil. There's no concept of it in his being. But yet there's a notion of all-knowing, but at the same time, all perfect purity. And he was just looking at me like that, and I was beating myself up and saying, oh my God, I said, Jesus, I am so horrible, I'll just fail you, and I'm nothing, I'm so small, I'm sorry, my life is, I know that my spiritual life is over, and he looked at me like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? You're beautiful, you're loved, I love you, there's nothing wrong about you, you're amazing. That's how he was looking at me while I was beating myself up. And that day, James, I realized that whenever we feel guilty, angry, we are the one condemning ourselves. It's our own conscience.
Yeah. We kind of talked about that last night. The hardest person to forgive is ourselves.
Yes. And that's, since that event, I quickly say, I'm sorry, God, I forgive me, and then I move on. And I'm trying to be a better person, but I don't keep that guilt behind me that actually poison your life. And then because the more guilt we keep, the more condemnation and guilt we keep, the more we feel bad, and the more we feel that we are bad, the less we want to do good, and the more we feel completely lost, a lost cause. And then the more we say, anyway, we are lost, let's do bad, evil thing, because anyway, we can't do anything else about it. But when you know that you can say, okay, sorry, I give it out, and I move on, and I'm going to be better. I mean, it's another perspective of life, you know, and you know that there's no thing waiting for you waiting for you, or things waiting for you to because Christ never gave me that. It just saw me beautiful, and then he said to me, when I said I feel nothing, he put his index and his thumb together, and he said, Yvonne, with the smallest things, I do the biggest things. Meaning, actually, because that when we feel small, when our ego is not in the way, you know, because in a way, when you think you're doing all those amazing things, and I'm doing all kind of, your ego, there's a fine line between that amazing things you're doing, your joy, and then thinking, oh, I'm that big shot now. I've done that, and I'm that big shot, and feeling that you're that big shot, and everybody, in my ministry, I spoke in front of thousands of people in Europe, in France, in Scotland, all over Europe. So it's easy to quickly feel like you're that big shot, and have that ego, people that, even spiritual people, I've seen so many, there's still that big ego in it that's saying, okay, And then they walk next to you like they are so much higher than you are, and so maybe I felt that too. I was starting to feel that too because I was getting known. I had a radio show in Europe and everything. So, Christ was trying to tell me that when we don't feel that ego, when we feel that we're those simple, joyful souls, we are a channel for so much more. We are not obstructing our own channel with our own ego. The light, the other side, the light, God, angels, beings, they can communicate more with us because we are putting our ego aside. And I think that a lot of people that are psychic or that are ministers and they're successful in it, it's because at some point they're letting that go, they're letting somebody else speak through them. So it requires that you let your ego on your side, and that's what he was trying to tell me, that there's more, heaven can do more with you when you put that aside. And you're an amazing being.
So you've got your lecture from Jesus.
Yeah.
You've died. You went to heaven.
Yes.
You got your lecture from Jesus, yes. And you're turned around and sent on your way. How did that come to you the second time? It's like, thanks for showing up. This is where you're going to come eventually, but right now, you're going back. So
the thing is, James, that when I was in heaven many years ago, when I died in 2008, the thing is that after I saw Christ in that light, he actually led me to go to the Crystal City. We were going. He came actually next to me to my left, and we walked towards the Crystal City. Or the Celestial City. We came out. We were moving outside the light. Outside the light, behind was that world that was actually a Crystal City, a Celestial City that was just ahead of us. And I was really in a hurry to go to. But at some point, as we were walking, I felt that there were people coming to my right. So I turned around and I looked, and I saw young angels making their way towards that city. Everything was very, very, very vibrant. It's not very soft and gentle. It's extremely vibrant and dynamic over there. And so they were making their way there, about a dozen of young angels. And one of them looked at me and they said, okay, this is Yvonne, it's just normal. And then when they looked at Jesus next to me, their face shone the same way as Jesus shone when I saw him the first time. It shone, and all those young angels ran into Jesus' arms, and he embraced them all with love. But then he said to them, "This is Yvonne's moment. Go back." And he just, with a lot of love and no rejection feeling, and he asked them to go back with the angels that were accompanying them. And I looked back to see who were those angels, and I saw female angels, women angels that were extremely magnificent, and they were there just with those younger angels. And when they looked at me with lots of love, the same type of love and feeling that Christ had, and they looked at me with joy, kindness, respect, consideration, acceptance, and they said to me telepathically, Yvonne, we are welcoming you. You are home. This is your home. You're one of us. You're here. You're home. We'll never harm you. You're accepted. You're one of us. You're family. That's what they told me. And at that point, that's the point. And then Jesus, and then my attention was back towards Jesus. And I said to Jesus, that's the point. I said, I didn't want to come back to earth. I said, I want to stay here, Jesus. I don't want to go back on earth. I said, I want to stay in this place at home. I don't like the earth. That place over there is evil. There's a lot of people that are mean, selfish, self-centered. They could care less about other people. I cannot relate to that world. I want to be here. I want to be home. I don't want to go back. And unfortunately, Jesus didn't tell me to come, that I had to come back, that I could stay. I knew telepathically that he would ask me to go back. And at that point, Jesus, when I said that, I didn't want to go back. And I actually tried to negotiate. And I said to Jesus, anyway, I can't go back to that body. That body is broken. I can't go back. It is beyond exhaustion, that body. It's beyond exhaustion. It's broken. I can't go back to that. So at that point, Jesus actually stood up in the air. He expanded very, very high in the universe. It was like a space that looks like a universe, but it's black, without stars, but the same feel, the same black, velvety, peaceful feel. And he expanded in as high as half a mile. You have to visualize the thing. He's expanding as high as half a mile. He becomes like a huge hologram of light. And looking at me, and he said, Yvonne, I will give you my power. I will give you my energy of life. And when he said that, he poured into me a sparkling liquid energy that filled my entire being up to and I could feel it in my body at the same time as my spirit. It filled even my bones, my nerves, my muscle, up to the proton of my everything. It's like a DNA renewal. And when that was done, he said to me, Yvonne, I love humanity. I love everyone at the same level, not only the Christian. I love everyone. Everyone is God's creation. Everyone is God's children. We're all everyone. I love everyone. So at that point, it's almost like Christ was identifying with God. He said, I love everyone. Everyone is God's creation. We're all God's children. He said, and then he said, I will show you how I love. And when he said that, he took my heart, he took my spirit, the essence of who Yvonne is, and he merged me with him as one. In heaven, everyone can do that. When you meet somebody in heaven, you can merge with a person so that, somebody who lived on earth and is over there. It's like me asking you, if we meet in heaven, I can ask you, can I see what your life was? And can I merge with you so I can see your life? And I can merge with you for a minute and become you, so I can live your life as if I had lived that life on earth, and I can have all the memory impressed in me, and so I can see and feel your life. That's the perfection of, when we talk like that, like we talk now, I can only explain you what I can explain, and you can only understand a portion of it. But in heaven, in that level, in that dimension, you can merge with somebody, and he can understand perfectly what you're trying to explain to them, because they become you for a minute, and then they can become themselves again. They come into you in a way, and that's what I experienced with Christ. I actually merge as one. Because at that moment, for a moment, I was in Christ's heart, and I could experience exactly the level of love, vibration, the level of love that he was experiencing for humanity, for everyone. And I merged with the light itself, with Christ and light. And I always say Christ was the light and is the light. Light is the light is expanding into so many people, into so many beings, to so many, and the light is God. And so that's the experience I cannot put with words, is that experience when I merged with Christ. And when I experienced all those love, because it was like billions of explosion of compassion, of goodness, of love. There was no forgiveness in it, because it was just pure love and compassion. Because forgiveness implied that you've done something wrong, something bad. and forgiveness is for this plane here. But once you're over there, forgiveness doesn't exist because you're pure. There's no need for forgiveness. Because forgiveness implies that you've done something wrong, and love doesn't imply that you've done something bad, because that's not in love. You see what I mean? And so that was the end of my experience. After that experience, I knew my time was up. Christ was sending me back, and I did not question that. I just had a knowing that my time was up, and I came back.
So you got all that information in about how long?
And I don't know.
Split second?
Yeah, a few seconds.
Yeah. So here's we talked about, or asked you earlier, what you think your path is. In listening to you speak and what you've been talking about, and the crunching of the bones and the healing and all this other stuff, and actually your divorce actually plays into this. Yeah. You don't have time to be sharing your life with somebody right now, like a husband. Your path is to do what you're doing, maybe do some more writing and awakening other people to understanding what energies exist out there, and that you actually don't be afraid of passing.
That's amazing what you're telling me. I mean, you are psychic, because that's amazing what you're telling me. Yeah.
I wonder what that said on that paper the doctor gave me. It's some psychopath, something like that. Yeah. But
no, it's amazing because I am actually writing a book too. I'm at page 100, and I give myself 140, and I'm stopping at that. And I feel other people have told me what you're telling me, exactly what you're telling me. That's my mission, is to talk and connect people with the other side, because when they said when I speak about that, people can visualize and can be there, can understand what it is, can visualize. They almost are there with me. I don't know if you feel that as well when I share, but that's what I've been told. That's one of my mission, is to just connect them with the other side by explaining how it is over there. So thank you so much for telling me that.
You're very welcome. The other thing, because you're not used to talking on the radio in English, you're going to get better at it.
It's not my mother tongue. You know?
No. My first language was baby talk, and I haven't been able to do that ever again either. But you are going to get better at articulating yourself in English, and that is and that's why you will be doing more of these type of shows. So Pay attention, because you're going to be doing more of these, and it's going to help you articulate in English and slow down a bit. Because you get
I'm so passionate. I get into it, and
you get into it, and it's like we're getting downloaded. It is quite interesting. It's some of the stuff that I would be completely dumbfounded after these things happen, but you did have your baby step in your first one, where you were basically given the fact that you are a light being. The second one, you were given the opportunity to see where more or less other people are going to go when they pass. Because if the light being planet is your home, and you were told you had more stuff to do here, then that's where you're going to go. The others, the non-light beings, which us normal, like you're abnormal, the majority of us, or possibly the majority of us, would be to the heaven realm, or whatever that location is that we've put a word heaven on it. and more the spiritual side of things, where we kind of go up and I think it's called the blue room. We go to a blue room and we kind of cut through all the stuff all the threads where we've connected to people negatively and positively, and we move on. And again, we get ready to go into our next incarnation through our being. But you have a different path when it comes to, we'll call it a path. You have a different destination once your meat sack fails to exist. So you're going on. So pay attention to when things show up in the corner of your bedroom, and pay attention to all dreams. Do you have a dream journal?
I note some of them. I've had after my NDE, I have a lot of premonition dreams or astral travels during the dreams as well.
Did you write them down?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Yeah, because that is very important when it comes to kind of getting ready and being able to look back. And one of the big things with writing down dreams, if you are that connected to the other side, is that you will write them down and you'll get into an incident and you'll think, oh my gosh, this is like deja vu. I've been here before. And when in fact it was a dream and you wrote it down. So it's not...
Yes.
It's not a deja vu. It's actually something you did see from another part in your life. We are speaking to a very fascinating young lady who exists in was it North Carolina?
Yes, that's right.
Really hard to tell from your accent. I couldn't tell if it was North Carolina or South Carolina. It's you've got that accent that could either be both. It's hard to determine.
Really?
Yeah.
So I have a mixed.
Yvonne Sneeden, and we're going to be back and after this other 7-minute break with more from Yvonne right after this.
The SOR Sightlines is a place for you to find answers to your strange experiences. Hi there, this is Mike Schmidt. If you have had an encounter with ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, ETs, or anything else that doesn't make sense, head to spacedoutradio.com and file a Sightlines report. All information you give is 100% confidential, and I will personally help you find the answers you need. SOR Sightlines, your answers are a click away.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4COP. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 mediums and a large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
A child grew up too fast, went running wild. Now we don't know who to pray to anymore.
Welcome back, everybody. I apologize. I was running higgledy-piggledy in North Carolina trying to track down Yvonne. Unfortunately, I was calling her in very, very Canadian French, and she is real French. not my goodness. They're I welcome to Canada. It's a good place here, there, and for breakfast I have 2 pieces of 2 eggs side by each and bacon parallel. It's very good, you know. You come to see me, eh? Anyway,
you do it well. You do it well.
But I'm completely bilingual, aren't I?
You are.
Yeah, exactly. Tavernouche. So what we kind of touched on this at the beginning, but this is of interest to me. In your documentary, and that whole spooky documentary that you're doing, it's called, oh, sorry, I should mention what it's called, Back from the Light. And if you go to backfromthelight.com, you'll read a little bit more about what that is all about. But in the documentary, Yvonne, you said you interviewed people who had a negative experience in their near death. Give us a couple of examples of those.
Yes, definitely. So I met a man called Matthew Dovell. He had a hellish-like experience after he tried to commit suicide. Well, once again, it's not because you're trying to commit suicide that you're going to go to that hellish experience, definitely. He said there is no, it's 50-50. Some people have committed suicide, have gone to the light, others have gone to the hellish experience. So there's no statistics saying everybody who commits suicide, but that was his experience. And he was 12 years old when he had his first near-death experience, when he drowned in a pool, and he went to heaven and he saw Jesus. So when he came back, he was so happy. He became that he had seen Jesus, but then he became depressed with the times, and he wanted to go back there. And he went into deep depression until at the age of 21, he decided, it's time for me to leave. I'm going to kill myself, so I go back to the light. And instead of going to the light, he went to a very hellish place. He said that where he was completely in complete. It was a place of complete destruction. There was no life. Everything was complete destruction and complete evil and complete anguish and pain and mental isolation and mental distress. It was utterly the most horrible. As much as mine was, I was the most happiest feeling. It was the most horrible and dark and evil feeling and frightening. We don't hear a lot of hellish near-death experience because most of the people that have those hellish experience don't want to talk about it, because somebody who had a good, a positive near-death experience, we want to talk about it and we get so passionate because it was so fantastic. But for them, it was so horrible that they don't want to talk because they relive it. Every NDE experiencer, when they talk about their experience, they actually relive it. They don't only talk about it, but they are reliving it. So that's why a lot of people don't want to talk about it. But people that have hellish-like experience, they feel like lifeless. They see threatening apparitions. They hear screams, silence, threats. They see they feel dangers and possibility of violence, torture. They feel that the temperature is extreme cold, a sense of hell. They actually, it's very disturbing what they are experiencing, and so they don't want to talk a lot about that. So there's a very small number of people that share the hellish near-death experience. However, when they come back, they are transformed and they want to be better people as well on earth because they don't want to go to that place, that hellish place.
Is Now,
does this answer your question?
A little bit, yeah. Because I'm kind of concerned with that, because I am dealing with right now I'm not dealing with a spirit, but there is a large organized crime group out here that is responsible for lots of bad things, from murder to human trafficking, drug trafficking, the whole bit. So there is a spirit of one of those people, and that spirit isn't available for a conversation right yet, because he's in what is deemed as the blue room, going through the different threads of people he had connections to and interactions with through his life. So he's going to be in there a little bit longer than normal. So what would you have to do to actually go to a place that's all, destruction and nasty? Because in my experience, there isn't a hell.
Yes. So in order to go to that place, once you're out of your body, you cannot hide anything, any emotion, any truth to yourself anymore. You cannot hide behind excuse or pretend it's not there, or just so you see. You're out of your body and you see all the horrible things you've done on earth, but now you are no longer in that evil body. You are that pure spirit, and you see everything you've done from the time you were on earth, and instead of using it for the good, you use it for destruction. So you are yourself sending yourself in a place of desolation. You are yourself deciding that you can't rejoin the light. And do you know that I've heard that there are a lot of beings of light, and it's a very difficult mission, that are going to those desolate places to try to bring people back to the light, to heaven. People that have done all those trafficking and everything, when they go to those desolate places that we call hell, they go to a process where they experience what they have actually made endure to other people. They are going to experience that themselves as if they were the victim, so they can understand the dimension and reject it and really definitely feel like that was wrong, and be able to rejoin the light.
Or
we have a lot of, or not. If you don't rejoin in the light's love, in God's love, they are. I had read a few experiences that were explaining that they are recycled at the end. The souls is recycled. Is actually removed from all the destructive soul.
Okay, because I know.
But there is a place of that's not heaven. That people send themselves to.
That people send themselves to. I wonder if it's now. Here's a what if. What if it's a place that's constructed to basically, because they know they're coming back as being a near-death experience, that they're not truly dying. It's a place constructed for them to basically get scared straight when they come back.
That's possible too. In my documentary, in Back from the Light, we have interviewed a anesthesiologist from Los Angeles. He was the head of the department at the hospital. He was not a good person before, he said. He gives his own story. His name is Dr. Party. He's Indian. He's Hinduist, Dr. Party. And he said he was not a good person. He had that God syndrome because he was a physician, and he was treating everyone like dirt, including his own family. And when he died, he was on the operation table. He had a problem with his digestive system. And when he died, he was met by the angel Michael and Gabriel, I think, and so he was sent to that horrible place, the same place as my friend Matthew, and he described it the same way as the other person described, the one who committed the suicide. The same. He described it as exactly the same, and then he cried out to God, and he said, "I'm sorry. Give me another chance. I want to do it differently." And when he said that, there was a big light that came inside that horrible place he was in, and in that light was his dad who had passed away. And his dad told him, "God is giving you a second chance. Go back on earth. Love and serve. That's your mission."
Okay.
So,
yeah,
so you see,
it's one of those things, and this is the thing I always throw up into. Well, I don't always throw up into things, but the one I always throw out when we're trying to cross over a spirit who hasn't crossed over, who are afraid because they're going to go to hell. We have to explain to them that if you really perceive there's a hell, then why would have, if you get into the belief systems, if God gives up his only son for our sins, that's kind of a waste of your only son if we still can get in trouble for sinning. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So then
I know what you mean.
Yeah, then they can, okay, we'll give that a shot and we'll cross over. And off they go. But it's
I think
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's a big difference between your everyday person who tries to do their best, but sin here, do things that they don't want to do here and there, and somebody that has decided to live his life in pure evil on earth. So there's a difference in, and also there's a big difference in the dimensions as well, But like you said, those spirits, when they are in a place that we call hell, they still have a chance to leave that place and go back to the light, and then go back to another life and to other experiences. But I don't think people should be afraid and say, "Okay, Jesus, that waste of life." I think what Jesus came to do on earth was more to say, he came from the light, came from the heart of God, and said, "Okay, I'm teaching you how to love, how to walk on this earth. I'm like your model. I'm your teacher, and I'm bringing you the life I've led, and even dying, and not judging anyone, and not hating anyone, and not harming anyone, even though I was harmed." That's the ultimate gift of love, because he needed to show the ultimate gift of love so that we could understand what love is about and how we can walk in that love and be in his love as well. It's not for him to say, "Well, you choose, either you're with me or you're in hell." It's not in that way. I think that's the message the church has given. A doctrine, there is a doctrine that's actually a human doctrine that has been put in place with centuries, but it's much happier news than what's going on. So, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess. I know, actually, I'm just typing this in one of the chat rooms that we had a connection through a number of psychics with Adolf Hitler, who didn't go to hell. He was placed in, the Blue Room, and eventually made a deal saying, after so many years, that, look, just let me go back. I'll go back as a minister. And I promise to do good. And, well, of course, he went back, and it didn't really do anything. So he got, quote unquote, called home. So he's back in the Blue Room. And he's not going to be... He's not going to go back into or make any other deals with the other side. Yeah, because he still has to deal with the things he's done. One of the questions here from Dawn Goodwin: why the light? And she had a near-death experience and didn't see a light, and she has medical proof, not just a feeling. What? You had medical proof Okay, that's weird. That statement's weird, Don, not you. Having that would mean a third party didn't see the light or stuff like that. But in your what do you call it?
Not everyone sees the light. Not everyone sees the light.
Yeah.
And it's still valid, and she still had a near-death experience, even though she didn't see the light. Not everybody sees the light.
We crossed over some spirits a few weeks ago, and one of them, one of the spirits we crossed over was an older Chinese lady from the 1800s, and when everybody else went through the psychic and to quote unquote the light, she crossed a river because that was her belief system.
Yes.
So it's like maybe when somebody from China 100 years ago passed away, instead of seeing the light, they saw a river that they crossed.
Absolutely, and that's what I was explaining earlier. Remember that people have different ways to go to that other place. Some go through a tunnel, some are instantly there, and that's another way. There's so many different ways. Some go through a river, other people are just in a dark black velvety place, and that's all they see, that's all they are in. You have different experience. There's not only one near-death experience model. The beauty of it all is that it's actually expanding in different ways of who you are, actually. The experience is different, and that's the topic of the documentary. The experience is different, but when we come back, we all have the same type of after effects here, and that's another evidence that you did have your near-death experience because of what you have developed as an after effect, actually, because you have when you come back, you have your life is changed forever. That's one thing. People that have hallucination don't have their life changed forever. They come back the same. Here, regardless of the type of experience you had, whether you were in a velvetly or like the lady, she crossed the water, we all have our life changed forever, and that's a big deal. And psychologically, physiologically, there are differences. We have emotionally, mentally. There's a list of after effects where if I was listing them, people that are listening that had a near-death experience, they will recognize themselves, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. That is interesting.
You see, because we always focus on the experience itself, which was amazing, the light, the warmth, the total acceptance, the total joy. We always focus on that, but there's the return. And the return is a big deal for many of us that are listening, and me and all my friends. We have to live here. How are we living here? The return is like coming back. Actually, when we come back, it's almost like we come back in a new planet, and we have to relearn everything. Oftentimes.
Yeah, and when you do come, we, like you say, we concentrate on the actual experience, going to point A and then coming back. Yeah. But what are we coming back with? What are the different? Exactly. What are the different changes? We'll call it psychic changes because it's easier. That people you've interviewed come back with. What are a number of those?
Yeah. So the people that come back, first of all, they have the psychic gift, and then they have also their reaction. As soon as they come back, they have positive. Some of them have positive reaction. They are ecstatic of what they have just experienced. They are humbled by the magnitude of their experience. So some of them are come back with that. Others come back with negative reaction. They're angry of being back here. So it takes time for them because they have all those psychic gifts and they don't know what it is because they were not in our field. So they were just random people working a normal life, and suddenly they come back with a different type of gift, but they don't realize that it's all psychic gift. They don't realize they have that. So some of them have negative reaction because, like for example, a young man, he didn't know what was happening to him. Sometimes he would put his hand and his hand would go through the wall. So he got really scared. He was not realizing that it's actually coming from his near-death experience. There are 8 million of people in the U.S. that have near-death experience, and many more millions in the world who come back and they have all those things that happen, and they bury that because they're so afraid of what's going on with them, with all those gifts that they have. And for example, I can quickly give, without the psychic gift, the normal gift that they come back with. They are more spiritual. They are actually, we come back with a loss of fear of death. You don't fear death anymore, it's over. You know what it is, you're happy, and actually you're looking forward to it. Not in a suicidal mode, but you're just looking forward. You're more thoughtful as a person, you're more caring.
Yeah.
You come back with those type of feeling. You suddenly, some of your unresolved issues from childhood resurface, and you heal them. You actually have heightened sensation in the taste and the touch and the texture and the smell. And also some people can hear from a big distance what the person is talking about, which your hearing abilities are amplified. Some of them, you come back with a sense, a convict of a life purpose and a mission. You come back that you know you have a mission, even though sometimes you don't know which one. A lot of near-death experiencers have a childlike sense of wonder and joy. We become more detached emotionally. Before we used to accept to go into bad situation and be victim of those bad situations, and let people walk all over you. And that's different. You refuse anything that you actually have magnifying glasses. You see people's motives. You read people's hearts. Most of us, when we talk or we interact with people, we are highly sensitive. We can feel it. We can perceive the emotion of the person or the thought or how they feel, how they are, if they are distressed. And it can be very hard for people when they come back from a near-death experience because they have a hard time walking in the street. They can hear people's thoughts. They can feel people's emotion. My sister, who had her near-death experience, she couldn't go out. She locked herself for about 6 months almost because she couldn't bear all the distress she could hear when she would walk in the street. She could feel the distress of people and hear their thoughts. And it was really heavy on her because it's not only hearing them, you're feeling them.
Yvonne?
So that's another... Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Yvonne, did your sister on her near-death experience go to the planet, or did she go to the heaven area?
She went to another planet as well, maybe not the same as mine, I think. She told me she's not from the same soul group as I am, because that's another thing also, that once you are in the other side, there are many, many, many souls groups, many families, and sometimes different families get together, beings get together and decide to live their life on Earth and become brother and sister of husband and wife. So you determine all those things before you come on Earth. You actually create your life on Earth, and we are from different soul groups. So she came from another place. But she, for example, had committed an abortion when she was really very young, when she was 16, and she always told me, I think they are twins. And well, during her near-death experience, when she went back to that place, it was Earth looking like, she said, but with extremely high waterfalls. And the two twins were there waiting for her.
I bet they were pissed off. No, I'm kidding.
They were happy.
I know.
Yeah. They were, well, you didn't give me my life on earth. I wanted to experience the material life. So she was in another place, but they took her in a school. They say, come with us, and she went to a kind of school where they have young souls learning things from the earth, because you have to know that many beings never make it on earth, or they stay in the light or in their worlds. They never make it here. So sometimes you, me, when we go back, we are going to teach some of those spirits that never makes it here what we have learned on earth. And my sister realized that when they took her in a school where there were young spirits, and she said when she arrived there, she suddenly realized that actually she was their teacher. But not a teacher like we teach here, science and geography, teaching way advanced, like spirits and gifts and universe, and that she actually had left them to come on earth to learn more and to bring that back to them. Because over there, for them, she might have been gone for a week, but for us here, it's a lifetime. And that's what she realized.
Your near-death experience that resulted in you being picked up in a spacecraft and taken to a planet. Were you in the hospital at that point or at home?
I was at home.
Okay. Your sister's near-death experience, which resulted her being taken to a planet, was she in the hospital or at home?
She was at home. A vast majority of people that had near-death experience were not at the hospital.
Okay.
Because it's because they are in the hospital that we can actually say, oh, okay, because we have the medical, because the people on this, we have the medical records that are written there. But the thing with my sister is that she saw herself sitting in her bed, and the being of light took her and said, we're going home, just the same scenario as me. But my sister is more vindictive. So she said, no, I don't want to go.
Yvonne,
I don't want to go. And I said, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yvonne?
No, go ahead.
Was your sister sick, or was she...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. She'd been sick for a while. She had gone to the physician, to the doctor, and but that's the point. The being of light told her, look back to your body. That's why you're going. And her body had a tumor under her heart. And when she told me that story, I told her, you have to go to see the doctor. And when she went, she did all the tests, and they told her, it's really unusual. You have under your heart, it looks like you had a tumor that shrinked and dried up.
Okay. Because a number of people in the chat room who are very familiar with near-death experiences and people talking about them or experiencing them themselves, also through our show and our interviews with people who have been abducted by beings, it sounds like your first instance and your sister's instance are abductions, or you've been taken astrally by your call it space family, which is a different experience than a near-death experience. Unless you can prove you actually died on those two locations, most likely you were at a very, especially your sister. They came down and said, look, you're sick. And this is why you're sick. She didn't die.
No, they said to her that, no, they didn't say you're sick. They said, you're coming with us because you cannot go back to that body because of that tumor. You're gone, you're finished. Yeah. And I don't think many of other experiencers because I've been 5 years with IANDS, which is the organization that actually study the phenomena, the most respected organization in the U.S. Each time the television wants to have a show, they contact us to get somebody on their show, like on CNN, on Dr. Oz, on I've been on NBC. So you have to know that it's not because it's not medically recorded that it's not a near-death experience. When your body stops to breathe, like my sister had, it's a near-death experience, but it's just not proven on paper or with the physician being there and measuring your pulse. I agree with the beings that it might have been an abduction. For mine, I completely agreed. I'm not sure with my sisters, because it was proven later on that she had that tumor.
Yeah, I believe she had the tumor, but what I'm saying is she didn't. There isn't anybody who is available to tell us that she stopped breathing.
Yes, actually, when she was in heaven over there, she actually God talked to her.
Oh, she went to heaven? She didn't go to a planet?
Oh, yes. She went there. She when you have that's what we always talk about among experiences. When you have a near-death experience, you have different scenes that can appear. You can be to a planet, then you can have another situation happening. There's different sequences that can happen. She went to that planet, and then her next sequence was her being in a velvety black place where God talked to her. And God told her, you can stay here. Your time is up on earth. You can stay here. Do you want to go back or you want to stay? She had the choice. And she said, I want to go back because I have my 2 daughters and they need me. And God told her, are you sure you want to go back because you can stay? And she said, no, I want to go back. I have 2 daughters. Even though they are in their 20s, she still want to go back. And she decided, and that's when she was sent back. She had the choice.
So she does have the choice, yeah. I think we don't we get 5 choices? Well, I shouldn't. A couple of people say there are 5 times during a life that you have the option of going home, kind of thing. And you can. There's checkout times that are kind of written into your Akashic record, where if you really want to go and you think you've got everything done you're supposed to get done, if you got it done in the first 20 years, I'm good to go.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, I mean, so I guess you're right, and
no, don't guess I'm right. Challenge me, gosh darn it, Yvonne.
I do think well, I'll tell you the truth. And some people say 5. Some people say, I've heard so many near-death experience stories, live from people in all those conferences and in our monthly meeting. I think there are many possibilities. I think there's not one single pattern that exists. You see, we human, we like to categorize everything into compartments.
Yep.
There's 5 things, there's 2 things. It's infinite. There's multiple possibilities in that place. That's what I think. One thing I know, my sister really regretted coming back. She was depressed for 2 years. She said, what in the world was I thinking? Coming back. I think once you're asked if you want to stay or come back, or once you ask God to stay there and not come back here, you're definitely dead. You see, when you are at that phase where you are battling with God to stay there, or God gives you the choice to come back, you definitely dead, whether the medical corps has given you a paper or not, I think, does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. It's basically, that's how it makes sense to me. I just want you to keep in the back of your mind that people have done things or been taken. And when you're usually taken up into a spaceship and exposed to what you have been exposed to in light beings, then that usually doesn't, and I was going to say in my experience, but I've only talked to people who have been abducted, and I've only talked to people who have near-death experiences. And you've talked to a lot more people with near-death experiences than I. But the alien aspect of a near-death experience is primarily people who have been abducted for whatever reason.
Oh, and I do believe that the first one, actually, it makes sense what you're saying right now, because of that experience that I had, and that I feel also could be an abduction / near-death experience, because somebody is now currently studying people that had an NDE with the element of aliens in it, or abduction. Somebody had contacted me for that. They were doing a study on that. That is what triggered in me the desire to search about aliens, about spaceship abduction. Is my experience there, because it wasn't your regular NDE. So I really searched, and it sounds like an abduction, because I didn't even know how the inside of a spaceship looked like, and I knew it was just bare. And when I checked and researched, it looked like that. So that I would be accepting that it might be the case, actually. Indeed, the people that are saying that on the chat, I think they are right for that one. And but you can have a near-death experience and have an abduction at the same time as well.
Yeah. I guess who knows? If you're in a weak spot and you need to have a conversation with somebody, then that would maybe a time they're coming in. Maybe it's that time they're saying, hey, look, you have a chance, you can go back, or you can stay here. It's up to you.
Yeah.
In your case, you had a lady come through and take you by the face and say, yeah, you got more stuff to do. Sorry, you got to go back.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Yeah, you can't get off here. Check your ticket.
I was refused twice. I mean, this time, and then when I was in the light with Jesus, I mean, it's like, okay. And my sister was done. But I can understand why. She had a much, much harder life than I had, my sister. So she probably learned much more than I did on this level. Because the harder your life is, the more you learn about things. And the more you grow spiritually. So that's probably why she was able to go through if she wanted.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I've had another instance. I was raising my daughter, and I'm a single mother, and sometimes the teenage years. I don't know if you have children. The teenage years can be challenging. I have a wonderful, wonderful daughter, but the teenage years was really more than challenging.
I have two daughters, 17 and 14. They're both for lease until they're in their late 20s or 50s. But yeah, their challenge is a word, because I don't think their brains actually kick in until they're about 23. Good Lord.
Yeah. No, I mean, yes, it can be really, so I know you're with me when I say that it was so difficult that at some point I came to the breaking point, and I thought to myself, okay, let's think twice. She's not my real daughter. She's a being of light that came on earth to be my daughter. So I'll see that as an eternal perspective. She's taking the role of my daughter here for the experience, but actually we are being of light over there. So I will just take care of her with the logistics, food, school, college. I'm not investing my heart anymore because it's too hard, especially when you came from a near-death experience. You're highly sensitive. And so I said, I'm done with investing in her. I'm done. I was always trying to talk to her about all the afterlife and things. And I was 100% sure I was done with her. 2 nights later, I have an astral, I have 2 nights later, I have about 10 beings of light in a huge spaceship. It looked like a mother spaceship inside. that were just in front of me, and they were there and they were all in white, and they came to me and they said, Yvonne, we have come to you because the Great One wants to speak to you. And it was a spaceship. These are my two experiences with spaceships. And it was huge. It was not the same one. The other one was small, but this one was huge. I was inside. I didn't see the outside. I just saw the inside. And all white. And I saw a few people in the background working on some things on the wall. They didn't have those big machine and computer like we have, but it was more like looking like holograms. And the ones in front were telling me, we have come to you because the Great One wants to speak to you. And when that happened, that huge being of light, it was not Jesus. It was a huge, huge, huge being of light in that spaceship that was there. And more like a fatherly figure. I would dare to say it was almost like God taking that human form for me. And he was there, huge, very powerful, but also very loving and very wise. And he said to me, Yvonne, I've come to you to tell you, do not give up on Eloise. Eloise is my daughter's name. Do not give up on Eloise. Keep teaching her about the kingdom of light. Do not give up. And that was the message. And after that, they all wrapped up and gone. So that was my other experience.
Well, see, you have a direct connection to those beings, the light beings. You already know it's good. You're good to go if you pass away. You also have knowledge of what will happen to others who aren't your light family. What will happen to them when they pass away. So one of the things that you're doing in your research and with your group are making people feel comfortable with the idea that there is something after death.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So the information that you're getting, now again, who knows if your daughter is actually a light being or she is some other individual, some other race. I shouldn't say race, because I'm pretty sure light beings and we'll call them aliens are two different kind of groups. Yeah. One's further up the food chain, the kind of the multi-dimensional types, or the 12th dimensional light beings, or fifth, or actually not fifth. Fifth is you said your guys were a fifth dimensional light being?
No, that's what I was told. I'm not sure if it's true or not. I was told that I didn't experience myself, them telling me that.
Okay.
Somebody told me that, but I didn't experience.
Because my understanding of the fifth dimension is it's another dimension where we have bodies like this. You get up into I think the sixth and on is energy dimensions. And light beings are kind of further up to the ninth and more 11th.
Yeah.
But again, I just get this from talking to people who say they experienced it. And if it makes sense, then I kind of think, okay, I'll file that away and take it as...
Thank you. I mean, I'm excited to be being of light.
Oh, no, that is one of those things. That's why I want you to, keep up where I was asking about the dream journal, because that is something really important. Because that's where you're going to get info. That's where you're going to, if you ask a question, or for meditation, you'll ask a question, and you may get it in dream state. So
exactly, I get a lot in those dream states. Yeah,
because face it, if someone is going to, especially an alien being, if they're going to show up at night and pass on information, they usually don't want to stand at the foot of your bed because they know you'll pee a lot, and it's not cool. So they'll usually come in a dream state because your vibration is at a point where you're receptive to that kind of thing. And they'll get common. Yeah. It'll come in a little more common too. They'll say, okay, Yvonne sleeps between this hour and this hour. We'll drop by, and
at that time, yeah.
Yeah. So again, make notes, because it's, you're going to get little bits of a puzzle. And unless you're going completely sideways when they actually tap you on the head and say, no, we got to talk to you. So out of body travel, astro traveling, and sit down over an iced tea or something and talk to them.
Yeah. Just like I was going sideways with my daughter.
Yes.
So they had to intervene because they knew I was determined to do that. It would have just destroyed my poor baby's life. She's an amazing daughter now. She's in college. She's amazing. She's also she's extremely intuitive. One day I almost had an accident, and she was in high school. She called me. She said she was in class. She said, "Mom, I just felt that you almost were in an accident. Are you okay?" So things like that. So she's also very open, but she hides. She doesn't want to get there right now. So
no, maybe sometimes it's not her choice.
Yeah, no, exactly. We don't have to force those things on people. It has to be the right time, the right moment. We all have a journey to learn, and we have just to follow. Oftentimes, we have a tendency to try to evangelize people with our own experience, but every one of us have our time to experience, our time to do things, and to go on. James, I know that we have many listeners here that have had near-death experience or similar experience, and I was wondering if I quickly could give some of the physiological and the changes, everything changes. So the ones that listen don't feel that what they are having is normal. It's actually linked to the near-death experience, even though they are expert, but some of them might have just random things happening to them and they don't realize it's connected. Do you want me to quickly give a short list of of what it is? So it gives them,
please.
It will help them wherever they are in the world. It will help them. So some of the physiologic change that they have after a near-death experience, they will have a lot of sensitivity to the light and to the sound. So if they have an extra sensitivity to that, it's normal. They also can no longer tolerate violent music, hard music. Most of the experiencers, NDE experiencers, prefers soothing, soft music. Everything that's actually positive. They can't watch violent movies anymore. Everything that's violent is very offensive to them. They can only watch movies that are exempt of violence. That's another after effect. That's all. And in the movie Back from the Light, if people go and look on backfromthelight.com and see the movie, they can see that people have actually. We have interviewed people, and they are telling all those things. Also, and this comes also from extended study done by IANDS and by other organizations. So also they prefer melodic classical sounds. They're very sensitive to electrical sensitivity. Actually, if they have bulbs, they turn on the light and bulbs up exploding, or if their radio are crashing, if their computer are crashing all the time, their phone, their cell phone battery are discharging very quickly. If they have all those things are normal, because when you've had a near-death experience and you come back, your energy of frequency has changed. And you come back, and when you try to connect with the frequency of here of all the electrical field, it creates that type of situation. You also have to the watches stops. Many cannot wear watches anymore. Television channels change with no control. So also computer can lose memory suddenly as well. So all those things are things that are after effects of the near-death experience. They can also change their lifestyle, become health-oriented. They eat very healthy, become vegetarian. Many of them become vegetarian or very health-conscious. Their lifestyle changed completely. They're not materialistic anymore. They change career from being oriented in finance, for example. They become nurses. Their career changed towards helping humanity. A lot of them have a very enhanced capability of information and knowledge in input, almost like their heightened intelligence. So that's the type of thing that happen as after effects. Some of them, there are many, many more. Okay, they don't have a sense of timelessness anymore. There are many more, but that's a brief list. But there are many, many more. If they go on Back from the Light, they can see more of them. That's it. Thank you.
That's at the backfromthelight.com. And it's quite a substantial group, a bunch of information you've got there too. Where can we, if we want to watch the documentary, where can we find that?
Actually, right now, unfortunately, you can go on Vimeo. Vimeo, that's where you can rent it for now, and that's where we have it. Yeah.
And you also can buy the CD.
Yes, you can buy the DVD as well on Back from the Light, but you can also, if you can buy the DVD, if you live in another country, you can go on Vimeo and have it there for, I think it's $4.99 or something, US dollar, and then you can watch it there. We have to do that because I put my, it's a way to reimburse all the expense we did to go and travel around to film every one of those people. So we had quite a few expenses, and and with the money that we make out of those rentals or DVD, we will do another documentary later on. So on another topic, similar but different as well.
And the listener, if you go to their website, backfromthelight.com, and go to sponsors, you can actually donate, which will help them put some money together to continue this research.
Yes,
and there's,
exactly.
Heck, get your name on the benefactors list here. So, and I want you to pay attention next time to. I wonder if you can get somebody else, one of your other people on the team who specializes in alien abductions, to kind of keep an eye on, kind of help you guys out with understanding the difference between, or where the I shouldn't say difference between, but the telltale signs of an abduction over a near-death experience, because I bet you on near-death experiences you shouldn't be going to another planet. You should be doing the whole death thing.
Yes, like I had the second time.
The second time, yeah.
Yeah. So that would be very interesting if we couldn't. If I knew somebody, there is one person that does that. I haven't contacted him yet. A friend of mine introduced me, so that's a good venue, I think.
Yeah, I know a few people too, and
so
some people
I'd love to know them.
Yeah, I'll pass that on to you some other time.
Thank you.
It's been really good. See, it didn't take that long to do this, did it?
No, it went so fast, and I do hope that the listener have enjoyed it and received something. Just want to send everyone who's listening all my light and love, and thank you for having listening to me, and wish you all the best.
Yeah, and I wish you all the best too. And I know this is going to be a little bit more of what you're going to be doing, and you're going to get a lot of airtime and a lot of experience talking. We'd like to thank you Yvonne Sneeden, for coming on. And for all our listeners, thank you for coming on tonight. And remember, just go to their website and go to backfromthelight.com and keep an eye on them. And for our listener out there, please just keep an open mind.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Dave's not here!
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.